Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, This Story Ain't Over. So today I'm coming to you with my final book haul of 2020 and my god, I've hauled so many books this year. This has been one of those years where I've received a ton of books from publishers, a lot more than previous years, and I feel like I've bought a lot more books this year as well just because like the pandemic, so I was at home and I was like, oh, I'll read more, and obviously did not. And I was also receiving like a bunch of books from like different book boxes as well that were being sent to me. So there have just been a lot of books and my collection has definitely grown significantly, but this is my final book haul of the year. And honestly, in 2021, I kind of want to haul less books. I want to borrow more from the library. I've been trying to do that more, and I find that a lot of times like there's a lot of books that I'm like interested in, but I just buy them on a whim so that I can read them, and then I end up putting off reading them, and so they just kind of sit on my physical TBR for a while. So I really want to kind of minimize my physical TBR and try reading more like ebooks and audiobooks from the library, but we'll see. It's a constant struggle, and like I feel like books are just my favorite thing to buy, so that's also a thing. But anyways, let's just jump right into the book haul. So I'm splitting this video into kind of three sections. So books that I bought myself, books that were sent to me by publishers, and then the third section, which is books that were sent to me in a book box. So whether that be Owl Crate or Fairy Loot or Illuma Crate. So the first section, books I bought myself. I went and got myself the paperback editions of The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic, and I'm noticing that I like match this very nicely. A lot of you have been telling me to read this. So many people love this on Book Twitter, on BookTube, and I wanted to join the hype, and the series finally finished with the third installment that just released, so I wanted to pick this up. So I decided to just splurge on the paperbacks, which are so beautiful, and I like how they're just like such bold colors as opposed to the hardcovers, which are like this white with like a little accent of color, and I personally like paperbacks better. So yeah, I've started Poppy War. I'm about like 100, maybe almost 100 pages in. I haven't really like touched it too much, but for those of you who don't know what the Poppy War is about, it is kind of like this long saga about this one girl. I think her name is Rin. Yes, she's an orphan, and where I am at in the beginning of the book, which isn't very far from what I've read so far in the first book, she is kind of this orphan who wants to like escape her town and like the horrible people that she lives with, because they were like kind of her foster family, and she's like she's an orphan from war, and she ends up studying for like this national exam and ends up entering this like amazing academy that is like very exclusive, and only the smartest and, you know, most privileged kids in the country can get into it. And so she ends up getting into it just by her own merit, and this is just kind of following her life, and this draws a lot on like East Asian history as well from what I've heard. So yeah, I'm just really interested in it, and I think it's going to be just a great fantasy read. And another thing I noticed about this is that the language and the way that the book is written isn't like regular fantasies that I'm used to, especially adult fantasies. It's very fun and funny, which is just really nice. So I am enjoying it a lot, and I cannot wait to continue with the series. All right, the next couple books I bought were on my birthday because I was like, I deserve these. These are like not things that I need, but I really want them. And so the first thing is The Lives of Saints by Leigh Bardugo, which is this little like addition to the Grishaverse, and it is literally like a embodiment of a little book that shows up in the Shadow and Bone trilogy that Alina has, that's given to her, and it is a little book of stories about the different saints in the Grishaverse, Ravkin's saints to be specific. And it's just this really beautiful red book, and it is also a facsimile of the prop that they use in the actual show, which dropped its teaser trailer this like past week, and I am just deceased, and I cannot wait for it to come out in April. But yeah, this is just like a beautiful book. Like, look at that. Oh my god. And that's the back, and on the inside, look at this. Look at that. Can you see that? Look at that. That is gorgeous. And it has got beautiful illustrations as well, which I'm in love with, and I cannot wait to just like sit down and read this. I'm probably gonna read this when like I actually have a week off from work, because I just can't wait. And it's just, I feel like it's just like something I'll sit down and read and just have a little bit of fun and fall into the Grishaverse, and I just cannot wait for that show in April. Also, can I just say that this is really nice to like touch? Like, it's just very satisfying texture. And then the next thing I kind of gifted myself for my birthday in October was the special edition of Shadow and Bone, and the contrast here is making it hard to see it, but look at this. It is so freaking gorgeous. So this is like the white slipcase, white and gold slipcase that it's in, and the actual book is this gorgeous thing, and this is also very satisfying to touch, by the way. And it's just got this like beautiful, you know, gold foil design, silver foil design. And it's also got gorgeous illustrations, which I am in love with. And it just makes me happy. And I honestly love this trilogy so much, the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Like, I read it in high school and it was one of my favorite things, and I know a lot of people like to hate on the Shadow and Bone trilogy and also on Alina, but I personally love Alina and the series. So yeah, I'm just so happy to have yet another copy of this book, because I don't already have like 2 copies right here. I have the original paperback, and then I have the new paperback covers that they released, and now I have this special edition. And then I also have like 3 copies of Six of Crows, and I like this whole shelf is basically Grishaverse books, and I'm really okay with that. All right, the next book that I bought is one that I bought quite recently actually, because it just came out, and that is A Universe of Wishes. And this is a anthology, a We Need Diverse Books anthology, and it's got different kind of fantasy stories all written by different authors, and there's a bunch of authors that I just really like on here, so I decided to just pick it up. And I also want to try and read more short stories, so that's also a thing. But I also have a tendency to like get anthologies and then never actually read them, because I have a very bad tendency to not be able to continue with the entire anthology. Like, I always like read a couple stories and then I like kind of lose interest. But we're gonna try again. And the authors in this anthology are Samira Ahmed, Jenny Bulk, Liva Bray, Danielle Clayton, Zoraida Cordova, Tessa Gratton, Kwame Mabalia, Anna Marie McLemore, Tochi Onyebuchi, Mark Oshiro, Natalie C. Parker, Rebecca Roanhorse, V.E. Schwab, Parasim, and Nick Stone. So there's a ton of authors in this, and I am very, very excited about reading this. And it just seems like a really interesting collection. Like, it says they deliver stories about a princess without need of a prince, a monster long misunderstood, memories that vanish with a spell, and voices that refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. So yeah, that just seems really interesting, and I always love fantasy books, so excited for some short stories. All right, the next book that I picked up is one that I feel like everybody and their mom has read, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I hear everyone kind of talk about this book, and especially when like it was fall time and dark academia was like really big. This was like coming up a lot, and so I jumped on the bandwagon and then bought this and wanted to read it, and then never got around to actually like reading it during the fall. So I am hoping to pick it up in 2021, but it is more on the literary side. It is like dark academia, and although I have like zero intention of reading The Goldfinch, I am really interested by this, and I know it has similar vibes to If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, which is one of my favorite books. So excited to read this. I think it's gonna be fun, but yeah, definitely not gonna pick it up anytime before the end of 2020, but probably in 2021. And then next I also bought K-Pop Confidential by Stephen Lee. The reason I wanted to pick this up is because it's a K-pop story, which is always fun, and also because the author used to be a writer for Entertainment Weekly, or currently still is. So I thought that that was interesting, and it just seemed like a fun kind of K-pop read to pick up. I probably won't pick it up anytime soon. I think I'll end up picking it up in like the summer, because I usually like to read contemporaries in the summer. But this is basically about a girl who's like a Korean American girl, and then she ends up auditioning for a girl group, K-pop group, and ends up moving to Seoul, South Korea, and is in the whole K-pop industry, and she is dealing with all of the craziness and just all of the intense pressure, and I just think it's gonna be fun. So excited to read this. Okay, and then the other 4 books that I bought myself, talked about these a bunch on my channel already, so I'm just gonna mention them kind of briefly. But the first is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. A lot of you know I bought this because of the cover, and I think it's just so gorgeous, and I also wanted to read it during spooky season, but I never got around to it. But I do hope to kind of pick it up soon. I did get the audiobook from the library, so I might try to read it that way, but all I really know about this is that it's a gothic horror set in the Mexican countryside, and I just love the vibes that we are getting from this. But if you guys have read this, let me know your thoughts, because I'm just really interested to see if I'll like it. And then the next 3 books I've actually already read, which is exciting. I'm actually finishing some books that I've bought, which is just very exciting. So the first one is Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is kind of a historical fiction, also romance, also a little bit of like fantasy, because there's like gods in this, but basically it has this like frame narrative of Aphrodite, the goddess, the Greek goddess, telling a story to some of the other Greek gods, and later in the book they end up all taking parts of the story and telling it, but they're telling the story of these 4 different kind of teens during World War I. So there's James, Hazel, Aubrey, and Colette. So James James and Hazel are both British. Aubrey is from America and he's actually black. And then Colette is from Belgium. She's also an orphan. But the four of these characters kind of intersect in very interesting ways, and you're seeing their love stories as well. This did drag for me a little bit, but I did really enjoy like the overall story and really love the frame narrative as well. So it's a really nice, like fun historical fiction to pick up, and definitely not as depressing as some other historical fictions I've read. So it's definitely more on like the lighter, happier side, but also deals with some very like hard subject matter like PTSD and like racism during that time. So it was really good. The next book I also finished, which is Sky Hunter by Marie Lu. I talked about this in like my favorite covers of 2020 video, and as you can see, this is just such a gorgeous cover, but it's also like got some really interesting packaging to it, like just the like hardback, like look at that. Gorgeous. But obviously I pre-ordered this immediately after finding out about it because I love Marie Lu and she is one of my auto-buy authors, so I knew I had to read this. And I picked it up recently and I was actually reading it through the audiobook, and I really loved the audiobook because the narrator really kind of gets you in the story. This definitely wasn't my favorite Marie Lu book, but it was still a lot of fun and definitely gave me more Legend series vibes because it is a lot more on the dystopian side, so that was kind of nice. And overall I just really liked the characters in it, and I'm really excited to see like where the stories are going to go in the second book, because a lot of things were left up as like question marks at the end of this book, so I really want to know what happens. And it was definitely like action-packed and full of just some fun and interesting themes. But yeah, it was a lot of fun and a great kind of like dystopian more sci-fi read, so yeah, highly recommend. All right, and then the last book that I bought myself was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is kind of a reimagining of Romeo and Juliet set in 1920s Shanghai. I think I've mentioned this in a bunch of videos before, but I really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved the way the author kind of brought the setting to life, and I just love the whole premise of the whole like Romeo and Juliet aspect of this, and like the two opposing gangs that they're from. And it also has like this supernatural element with like this madness sweeping through Shanghai. So it was a lot of fun and has a bit of like a mystery to it. So highly recommend if you're looking for kind of a genre bending book. All right, now we're on to the next section of books, which are ones that were sent to me by publishers. So I was very lucky this fall because a bunch of publishers came through for me and sent me some of my very anticipated releases of this year. And so the first of those was from Wednesday Books, who sent me the paperback edition of Gilded Wolves and the sequel to Gilded Wolves, The Silvered Serpents, which had just come out in September when they sent this to me. So they sent this to me as like a package, and that was so kind of them. I love the Gilded Wolves. It is one of my all-time favorite series, and I just love the characters in it. And so getting the second book from them was just very sweet, and I was very happy about that. And this book was just fantabulous. Like, it was such a great second installment. I liked it a little bit more than the Gilded Wolves, and I just loved seeing where our characters' stories were going and just seeing all of the angst in this book, because there was a lot. So yeah, if you haven't picked up the Gilded Wolves, go pick it up. It's kind of a diverse national treasure with like a lot of characters from different backgrounds, and it deals with a lot of like colonialism, and also has like a bunch of magic to it as well, which is super cool. So yeah, it's always gonna be one of my favorites, and I absolutely love it. All right, the next book is the one that I'm probably the most excited about on this haul, and this was sent to me by Penguin Teen, and it was sent to me early, actually before the release of the book, which was so kind of them, and I was able to film like a whole spoilery reading vlog, which you can go check out. I'll leave the link in the description or on the screen here. But that book is A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. And guys, I was like so freaking excited when they told me they were sending me this. I just was a bottle of excitement like the entire week I was waiting for it to arrive, and I immediately started reading this the second I got it, and I finished it I think in like a few days. I think I like finished it the weekend after I got it, and I filmed that whole reaction spoilery reading vlog, so go check that out. It's actually probably one of my favorite videos I've done because it was just such raw reactions for what I was feeling as I was reading this, and I had so many emotions while reading this. But this is one of my favorite series ever. It's the Ember Quartet by Sabaa Tahir. It starts with Ember in the Ashes, Torch Against the Night, and Reaper at the Gates. And then this is the final installment with this beautiful cover. And this is a kind of really epic fantasy with some really amazing magic and some really endearing characters that you cannot help but root for. And there were so many things that happened in this book that, oh my god, just destroyed me. And it was such a great final installment, but I'm not going to say anything more than that because I do not want to spoil it for you. So if you haven't read it yet, go read it. And if you have, go check out my reading blog for more thoughts on this. But yeah, it was just amazing, and thank you so much, Penguin Teen, for sending this to me. Alright, and then the next two books were sent to me by Disney Books, which was very kind of them. So the first one was Rebel Rose by Emma Theriot, and this is the first book in a new series called The Queen's Council. And so it's like based off of the Disney princesses, and each book is kind of like a continuation off the original like movie, and letting you know what happens after the happily ever after, and also kind of reimagining the princesses as kind of rulers in their own right. So in this one, it follows Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and she is a ruler in France in 1779, I think, or something, like during revolutionary France, and she's dealing with all of that, but also like what happens after her happily ever after with the Beast. So yeah, I'm very interested to read this, and I think it's going to be a really fun kind of concept, and I'm curious to see how the other books in the series are going to be as well. But yeah, definitely gonna pick this up soon. And the Disney Books also sent me an early copy of Lore by Alexandra Bracken, and this is a book that's coming out January 5th, I believe, and this is her new standalone fantasy, and I'm so freaking excited about it. This is one of my most anticipated releases of 2021, mainly because I love Alexandra Bracken's books. Even though I haven't read her Darkest Minds series, I really loved her Passenger and Wayfarer series, and I'm excited to kind of get a standalone urban fantasy from her, because this does involve a lot of Greek mythology, but is set in our present day, and is following like a strong main character, and involves some sort of competition or hunt set in New York City with some gods kind of roaming around, and I think it's gonna be super cool. And I just love this cover because it's just so crazy with like the Medusa head and everything. So I'm just really interested to see how this is gonna be, because the concept is just so interesting, and I really want to see how it's executed. Okay, and now we're on to the last set of books, which are books that I received in different book boxes. So the first of those I really want to talk about because I just unboxed this in a different video, which you can probably find linked on the screen or down below, but I just did an Owlcrate and Illumicrate unboxing, and this is a special edition of Daughter in Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. And if you guys didn't know, Laini Taylor is one of my favorite authors. I absolutely love her Strange the Dreamer series, and this is a gorgeous special edition by Illumicrate for the new UK edition of the series. So it has this beautiful illustration, but it's also like blue sprayed edges, and it's got this lovely quote on the back which says, "Once upon a time, an angel and a devil fell in love. It did not end well." And then it's also signed by the author, and it's got this beautiful embossing on the inside cover, and it says, "She had been innocent once, a little girl playing with feathers on the floor of a devil's lair. She wasn't innocent now." It's got the feather, and I know that's from the book, and I actually have read Daughter of Smoke and Bone before. I read it a really long time ago, so I actually don't remember anything that happened, but I never ended up continuing with the series because I just got caught up with other stuff. But I really wanted to find out what happens later in the series, because I know I did really enjoy this book, and I think I just need to go back and reread it, and I just cannot wait for that. And this is just so pretty. And also this edition has some beautiful artwork on the inside of the dust jacket, which I just cannot get over. All right, the next special edition I have is from Owlcrate, and this is for their special edition box of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. So this is the gorgeous special edition that they did, and I actually really love how simple it is. I know some people didn't, but I love the rose gold, and I love the back of this, which has a quote from the book, which says, "Never pray to the gods that answer after dark." And it's got like the little string thingy bookmark, which I love, and I think it just really embodies this book, which I absolutely loved. This was a lovely book. Highly recommend if you're looking for just kind of a bit more literary read, but also something that's kind of magical and something that will just really enrapture you at the end of the year. Next, I have the special edition of Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, and this came in, I think, the November Illumicrate box, and it is so pretty. It is an adult fantasy, and it's got these red sprayed edges, which is so nice, and I just actually really like this cover and like this entire package. This is basically set in 1893, and it follows like a group of witches, and also involves like a women's movement, and there's just magic and madness and stuff going around, and I honestly don't know a lot about it, but I kind of want to keep it that way because I feel like these types of books, it's just fun to go into them without knowing much and getting blown away. So excited to read this. I know this was the author of 10,000 Doors of January, which I'd heard a lot of things about, but I never actually read it. But I really want to get into more adult fantasy, so I'm very excited to read this one. And then I also got some special editions of Legendborn in 2 different boxes actually. So this one is from one of the Owl Crate boxes from this fall, and then this one is from I think the November Illuma Crate box, which also had Once and Future Witches. So this is kind of like a UK paperback, and it's got like the silver detailing around the magic on her hands. And then this is the Owl Crate edition that kind of switches the colors of the cover, which I think is super cool. So now I have 3 copies of Legendborn because I also have the original edition right here. But this is actually one of my favorite books of this year, so I am not complaining at all because it's just such a great book, and I cannot wait to see where it goes in the next installment. But this is kind of a mashup of dark academia with like the Arthurian legend with a POC main lead and some really interesting magic as well, and a little bit of like monster hunting as well. And it was just so much fun and just so well crafted. So I cannot wait to see where it goes, and just so excited to have all of these beautiful editions on my shelves. And actually that was the last set of books for this haul. I am so excited about so many of these books. I actually have finished a bunch of them, so I'm excited about that, but there are a lot more that I'm excited to pick up very soon. And I actually just love how I have so many new fun editions of books to put on my shelves, because I just love collecting books in general, so that's also a thing. But thank you so much for watching. Go check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads in the description down below if you want to get more regular updates on my reading and just what I'm doing. And let me know down below which of the books I hauled you are most excited for, which ones you really enjoyed. And that's all for my final book haul of 2020. I just need this year to be over. Not that like 2021 is gonna be immediately better than 2020, but we're gonna hope that it's gonna get better. I will see you in my next video, so please remember that this story ain't over. Bye.